Anthony William, the medical medium. One of the hard parts about all of this is knowing that there are people getting sick for the first time. And it isn't just getting sick for the first time. That's hard enough as it is. But it's the start of the merry-go-round. It's the start of the musical chairs. That's the hardest part. It means they got a long road ahead of them. They have to explore a lot of different biohacks. They have to try to hitch onto a bunch of trends. They have to start their doctor shopping. They have to learn the painful process of being let down, trust being broken. It's a killer. It's one of the hardest parts that I think about all the time. It's someone's first dance. It's getting their hopes up and then getting their hopes crashed and burned, and then getting their hopes up again and crashed and burned. It's the first skin rash they've ever had, and they get it treated, maybe steroids or something, and it comes back. And now they're like, what's going on? It's the first onset of fatigue. And they start feeling a little bit better, and they're doing some yoga. They're cutting back on maybe some different things they're usually eating. Maybe they're bringing in some supplementation that they found online or was recommended by a doctor, and their fatigue starts getting a little better. But just as it gets a little better, they break out with acne for the first time ever. And then their fatigue's back. And then depression, and then the brain fog. And it's this roller coaster ride of, wait, I think I'm getting better. But no, wait a minute, I'm not. And then here's a new symptom. But the other one's getting better, but no, it's not. And it's this up and down. And then it's the blood work. It's the having all this faith in the system and faith in the blood test. Going over it with your doctor the first time, but then speed up into the future and going over the blood work with your doctor for the 60th time. And it's this long, arduous, drawn-out process that can last people years and years and years. It really can. And when I hear myself say that, like it could last years and years and years and years, I catch myself for a second. And I'm like, is it really? Is that even possible? Even though I know it is, and I've seen people spend decades looking for answers, I still sometimes can't believe it myself, and I have to kind of sit back for a second and question myself and be like, okay, wait a minute. Does it take 20, 30 years for some people? And Spirit of Compassion says, yes, it does. It's brutal. It's brutal. And I think that there's this like sense of hope and sense of faith in the system, alternative medicine, conventional medicine, when you first get sick and you're young. And there's this just like, no, they got it all covered. They got it all covered. It's going to be fine. Whatever this is, it's going to be okay. And maybe for some people, it gets better and they rise out of it quickly, but they're back in it later on in life. And that journey starts all over again. But for most people, it starts and it keeps on going and keeps on going. And then they learn some hacks and some bio tricks and biohacks and they try to stave it off. And then they're just managing. And that's the next phase that gets to me. It's not just that first symptom when someone's learning and they're realizing, wait a minute, this is more than I bargained for. There's more to it than that. And that alone is torturous and painful and a difficult process. There's different aspects about being sick. And then there's the time. Well, I got sick last year. I remember it was September. I got sick in October. I got sick right around Halloween. I got sick 5 years ago. And it's about counting the years, it's counting the months, it's counting the weeks, and there's that whole thing that gets involved. And then it's the feeling like I'm in it alone. There's this whole process of when someone's sick, even if they have a support system, even if they're hearing from their friends that they're going to be better and it's going to be okay, if they're fortunate enough to have friends to even give them that support, even if they hear it from family, it's a process of feeling alone because it's your body, it's your life, and it's the way you feel. I just never hear anybody talking about this stuff. And so then I start doubting myself for a second until SOC steps up and says, no, these things are really critical. These things are really important. And I'll say, but I don't hear it. I don't hear this anywhere. I don't hear it from anybody. I don't hear it from the podcast doctors out there. I don't hear it from the influencers out there. I don't hear about the guts and the grime and the hell and the fight. I don't hear about that out there. I don't hear that from anyone. I don't. And then SOC will tell me that's because they're not in it for the chronically ill. They're not. It's a cold, hard fact, but they're not in it for the chronically ill. They're in it for their platforms and rising up in their platforms, becoming a health star or whatever it is. They're in it for that. And I understand. It's a dog-eat-dog world. I get that. Human nature. But I don't hear about the true understanding of the pain and the suffering and the true climb out of the woods into the field of light. I don't hear about it. The rising out of the ashes. And you know what I stopped doing? I stopped asking Spirit of Compassion if this influencer is telling the truth about their health journey as they're trying to get people on board and talk to the chronically ill. I stopped doing it. Or this influencer that says, I had this wrong with me, that wrong with me, and here, this got me better, or that, or try this and do this. I stopped asking Spirit of Compassion if that person really was sick or what they really were suffering from, because I was being let down every second. Because I would say to SOC, give me a read on that influencer. And I would hear the read, and the read would be, well, they really weren't that sick. They weren't really struggling. They had a little bit of depression, a little bit of bloating, but they realized when they were talking about it that they were getting a lot of hits from people that were really suffering with severe bloating and severe problems. And so they would just embellish in the symptom game, which is something a lot of influencers do. So I stopped because it was so disappointing. I stopped asking SOC. I think that people think the chronically ill thing is just a stupid joke of some kind. And I still don't see enough compassion or enough caring or enough understanding about the people who are seasoned, that been through so much, been there, done that, tried this, tried that, and had to fight for their health freedom and become empowered with the truth and heal. I don't see anybody out there giving those people respect. I think the chronically ill are still swept under the carpet. I think they're also the cha-ching cash cow now for the industry. They always were in other ways, but now more than ever. But if you really reach deep and you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you really see what they've gone through, it's remarkable. The doctor bills, the blood analysis papers piled up, the allergy testing, the different supplements, homeopathy, different pills, different gut formulas, different probiotics, different whatever. And if you really look at the amount of times they stood in the waiting room, they waited in the waiting rooms, and they tried to explain to the practitioners and doctors. I mean, there's some great ones out there, and we need doctors, but the amount of time and the energy, and then explaining to their families and explaining to their friends about their symptoms and their conditions, and trying to meet people that are also dealing with that too, and getting them to understand, and then the feeling of being alone and what you've been through. If you really look at the nitty-gritty and you get down deep, into what everybody who knows what I'm talking about been through and what they've been through, you really understand it. It's just, it's intense, but it's inspiring. The people in the medical meme community are seasoned. They are seasoned. You guys know this. They are seasoned. They know. They've seen it. They understand. And they've watched the tide move and shift, and they've watched the tide come in. They've watched everything shift about in the health realm. And many of the people in the medical medium communities they've been in it for 30, 40 years out there. They've tried so many different things. You know, when I was with you guys at the June 15th event, I mean, there were beautiful people coming up to me that were 90 years old and have tried everything and done everything, been there, done that. And they knew the answers were here. They're smart, they're seasoned, spiritually empowered. That's just remarkable. But what I notice is lacking out there, among so many other things that are lacking, is no one gets it. Like the real bottom layer, the nitty gritty, and the understanding of when you first get sick, and then try to make your way through it all. That sea of darkness, that sea of fog, and that sea of confusion, and just try to push through that and what that takes for all ages. I have a lot of respect for the chronically ill. Tremendous respect. Anyway, keep up the good work, keep up the healing. Just some thoughts, and care about you guys greatly. Proud of all of you. And keep up the good fight. Keep on moving forward. Keep a light heart when you can and where you can. Always remember, you're not totally alone. You're not. Even if you have friends and family and people around you, or coworkers or old friends or anything like that, you can still feel alone when you're sick and you're suffering and struggling. But remember, you're not alone. You're being watched from above. You have every God-given right to heal. Love you guys.